So, Catherine,
Yes.
from what age did you really realise you had dyslexia?
Oh, well, I think I realised there was something different about me about age 5. I didn't realise it was anything that I could put a name to until I was about 12.
I see.
Yeah.
So, when you were about 5, did you really understand the impact it had on how you read, how you write, other children? Did you realise that this was something that wasn't normal?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was always different, especially in like English or anything talking and reading, and it always took me a lot longer to read through things than other people, and my handwriting was really bad. Still is.
I see.
And yeah, I definitely stood out in that sense.
Yeah. So, I was going to say, you're someone as well that's got a bachelor's degree.
I do, yes.
Yeah, so I think for people with dyslexia, I think there's all these sort of stigmas thinking, well, I can't do well in school or I can't do well in like higher education because it's a limiting factor. So what are like some techniques that you've developed for yourself that have really helped you to thrive?
Well, I was 100% one of those people that thought I couldn't do anything. That's, I think encouragement from family and friends was probably the biggest help
Yeah,
at the start, encouraging me to try new things. And just because I'm not good at English or anything written,
yeah,
I could do other things, and which turned out to be more creative.
I see. I found having ADHD, I've not got dyslexia, but I always struggled with English within school. But then when I went to college and uni, I found that I was having to do a lot of sort of essays, and I know especially in college because I was doing film and TV, I was writing sort of like video essays to do with films, and I actually found that I was able to write loads of paragraphs. I was able to use like some quite long, complicated words. I was able to, write really well formed sentences. And I was thinking, hang on a minute, like if I'm not as good at English, how am I able to do this and get such good grades on it? So I really think it is what you're writing about as well. I mean, for someone with ADHD, I would really struggle to, write about Shakespeare in detail. But if you're like, oh, write an essay on Edgar Wright or write a film review of this, then that's something I can write in detail on, or especially a special interest like running. I have my own vlog posts that I do every day on Strava where I'll go into loads of detail. And I'm not even someone that I would say is good at English because I failed English in school and I had to redo it when I was in college. I'm not sure if you had a similar experience or whether you did well in English.
Uh, yeah, no, I was English, no. But it was just something I always hated. I thought, oh no, I've got English, I've got double English, how can I get out of this? But I think finding the right teacher to talk to you, I think, really helped. Because I
Yeah.
think quite a lot of teachers were quite confused on how to deal with someone with my difficulties, and rather just thrown in the deep end of, oh, this person needs extra help, go and help them. So they were like, how should we do this? But it was, I think, just having that one-to-one with someone and
Yeah.
going through things more slowly and
I was going
having that
to
extra
say,
time.
do you think that teachers, not all teachers obviously, but do you think there is a lack of education towards teachers in teaching them how to deal with certain kids with things such as dyslexia or ADHD? Do you think that's one of those things where teachers don't quite know how to deal with that when it comes up? And, rather than having a set training method, they just sort of all react differently. Some of them can react really harshly and they can like blame it on you as just being bad. And other teachers are really good and they come up with all these other systems. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure put on teachers, and quite often, especially with teaching assistants, they just don't have the training, they haven't been given the opportunity to learn about how to teach and treat the children that might need a bit extra help. And that often comes across in the wrong way to people. whether it feels like they're being neglected or, I don't know, treated poorly. I mean, I know at school I felt that way. I was always singled out and put at the back of the class. Felt like I was alienated, and it wasn't necessarily the teacher's fault. I think they just needed some more training.
Yeah. I mean, another thing I was going to ask you is there any challenges in particular that you faced having dyslexia? You know, not just sort of reading, writing. Is there anything where it affects you outside of that?
Memory, my short-term memory. Quite often I'd have to keep looking up and down from reading something like on a board, or if I'm trying to remember something that, like a paragraph that I'm reading out to people, I'll have to keep checking what I've written, because my short-term memory is very bad, and it can make things very difficult if I'm trying to make a good impression.
It can come across as if you're lazy or forgetful when you forget things short term. I mean, that's something, sometimes I can really thrive on that, where I remember a lot of things. There's other times where it's something really basic and I'll just forget, and I'll come across as lazy or that I wasn't listening. I mean, one thing I used to sort of get told by people is that I'll be having a conversation or someone will be telling me instructions, and because I'm talking over it or I'm looking at something else, they'll think I'm not listening. Whereas if I try and listen and I try and sit there and look like I'm listening, that's not me listening. That's me trying to put on a mask of, sitting there and looking concentrated and looking mature. Whereas sometimes I find that I could just sort of play a game in the background and I can like take in information really well. I find it with podcasts a really good way of doing it. Yes. So what equipment have you found useful for managing dyslexia?
Well, the first piece of equipment I got that I found useful was my tinted glasses. And at first I didn't think, how is this going to help me? I've just got coloured glasses. Like, look a bit like Elton John with the pink or the orange glasses. But it helped, for me at least, it helped stop like words or letters being the one way round or floating about, and it helped me process the words better than just reading it normally. Other things that I've had that is that you can speak to the computer and it will type out.
Oh yeah, like text to speech. That's very common nowadays.
Yeah.
I remember when that was up and coming.
Yeah.
One thing I am really curious about, so when you look at screens and when you look at a paper, like, do you find screens harder to look at, or do you find reading off of paper or books harder? Is there any differences in that?
Generally books, because with screens I can make the text bigger or I can adjust it how I want.
You're able to change the typeface.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Colours.
I can tint the page or however I want. But if it's a book, that is just how it is. I have to try and read it as it is.
Yeah, it's hard to sort of make adjustments there.
Yeah.
So when you look at a book, for example, what do you actually see? Like, because for example, a normal person, I guess, like neurotypical person, would read a book and they would just see each word and they'd easily be able to just scan across the page, go down to the next line. Like, do you have issues sort of scanning or going on to the next line, or is it that, sometimes you don't recognize words when you see them?
Well, I remember in class when you have to stand up and read, I was always envious of everyone being able to stand up and easily read through line after line after line. And I'd stand up and I'd lose my place on the page, the words would be moving around, I'd be trying to find what I'm reading, and it would take me a long time to process one word and then the next word, then the next word, and sometimes I get jumbled up in my words.
I mean, I just find some of it is that, like, with long words, or if it's worded in a way that's complicated to understand, I know a lot of, like, briefs and things like that, they use sort of complicated language, and if someone was to tell me, oh, just read this in front of the class, I would struggle. I wouldn't consider myself, struggle to read, but at the same time, when I'm put on the spot to read something, I feel embarrassed if I don't know, if I can't say a word properly or if I don't know the meaning of a word. That can happen quite a lot, really, with me. But in terms of speaking, I'm pretty confident. You know, if it comes to public speaking or presenting, I have no issues whatsoever going up, doing that in front of audiences. But if someone told me, oh, can you read this out from a book in front of like a class, it would be very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Even though it's somewhat easier because, you know, it's right in front of you. But I find that that's harder in a way because you got to get it right. There's a pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't do public speaking or
Have you ever
talking in
had
front.
any experience of public speaking?
Yes,
remember?
yes. At university and college, I had to do that quite a lot, unfortunately. It took lots of practice and swallowing my anxiety a bit and just trying to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd often
So-
stutter and
What were the
Yeah.
things you were talking about? Was it like assignment work or was it times they'd make you read stuff?
presentations mainly.
yeah.
Yeah, presentations.
I find that the more confident I am in what I've done, I find it's easier. If it's something I'm not as confident about, or if it's something where they put me more on the spot, then that's when it's harder to present. But if it's something I've gained loads of ideas, I try with my presentations, I try not to make them very text-based. I try to have more images than text because I find that bullet points are mainly talking points that I can just like refer to and then I can say what they actually mean. So I was going to actually say to the listeners, dyslexia is a neurobiological learning difference that primarily affects the skills involved in accurate and fluent word recognition. Spelling and decoding. Individuals with dyslexia often have difficulty mapping letters, they read at a slower pace, experience challenges with spelling, and they can typically have average or above average intelligence. So in some ways, it's not actually linked to overall IQ, but there is a trend in people with dyslexia actually having higher intelligence in those areas or being able to retain information, even though I know short-term memory is one of those things that can be a problem.
Yeah, no, I think IQ's. I think it's often perceived that people with dyslexia might be a bit stupid or a bit slow and
More slow than stupid.
slow.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've been called both at school
Yeah.
myself, but I think there are lots of people out there and in history that have done really well for themselves
Yeah.
because of their dyslexia, really. Because I think people with dyslexia or other learning difficulties might just think differently. They think.
I find they think differently. I found with a lot of people, not everyone, but there's a lot of people with learning disabilities that naturally work harder or they're more ambitious because they're at a disadvantage and they want to fit in. So they sort of go above and beyond to try. And, you know, because of that, they end up, you know, becoming recognized for different reasons, really. From a lot of people I know of neurodiversity, they work just as hard, if not a lot harder than other people. They feel like they're already at a disadvantage. So when they go into
Yeah.
class, for some people, it's easy. Like, reading's just, you know, simple.